Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tyler. I'm an astrologer. So, you always see me wearing white, usually. Well, that's because in my Chinese astrology, it says that uh, based on the time of the day that I was born, it says that the element of metal is my luckiest element. And because I don't have any metal in my body, or extremely little. My body is actually most like of the five elements in the Chinese astrology. There's metal, water, wood, fire, and earth. And so I have no metal at all from on the time of day that I was born. However, I have wood. The majority, I think my body is over 85% wood in my Chinese astrology. So that means uh, that so it's kind of an imbalance. When people have too much of one element that they're born with, that their bodies are made out of, and this is according to Chinese astrology. So because I have no metal in me, that means that metal, the element of metal, is my most fortunate element in Chinese astrology. So the color that represents metal is white. So that's why they say that um, it actually says the more I wear white, the more I wear the color white is actually beneficial, and especially on important days. So so that's a lot. And I like to wear white in particular if I'm doing a new video. But really, for occasionally, but green was always my favorite color, I found. And that I'm kind of wondering if that's because I'm mostly made of wood. The color green represents wood in Chinese astrology. And because I'm pretty much mostly made of wood in my Chinese astrology birth chart, I'm wondering if that could be the reason why green has always been my favorite color. But in either event, on today's topic, sorry, I just ate a lot. I was kind of I have a bit of a dry throat from I ate a lot of snacks for while watching TV. The U.S. political debate was on tonight, and that's on. Today is Wednesday, July the 31st, 2019. So the U.S. presidential debate was on tonight, and it's still going on right now, as a matter of fact. But I'm just doing this. Wanted to do this maybe 10-minute video beforehand, and then go back to it. But today, July the 31st, 2019, is Day of the Earth Snake in Chinese astrology. So the Earth Snake in the Wood Ox, which is me. I was born on Day of the Wood Ox. That's a lot of the reason why my body is mostly made of wood, and I'm also an ox as well. As that's why my channel is called Scorpio Oxman, because I was born on Day of the Ox, and I had a Scorpio moon. The moon was in Scorpio on the day and time I was born, and it was also Day of the Ox. That's why my channel is called Scorpio Oxman. So the combination of the Chinese astrology and the other astrology that goes from Aries to Pisces. So, and that was February the 6th, 1983, my date of birth at 10 p.m. at night, Toronto, Ontario, Canada time. So Scorpio moon, Day of the Wood Ox in Chinese astrology. So I wanted the topic about, apparently in the Chinese astrology, the animal sign of the ox, which was the second animal in the Chinese astrology. The rat was the first, the ox was the second, the tiger was the third, rabbit was the fourth, and so on, and the pig was the last of the 12 animal signs. Because one day the Buddha called upon all the creatures and animals of the earth for a gathering and to have a party. Only 12 animals showed up, and the rat was the first, the ox was the second. So that's the story, the history of it. But the ox, as far as what I've read and heard, cannot get a break, literally. Of all the signs of the zodiac, the ox has a disadvantage because none of the other signs like it. Well, some of them do, but not. They do some of them do in a sense, but there's still no benefit that they could give. And this is just how it is for the ox. The ox is the odd one out of all the 12 animal signs. And you know what? I always felt this way too growing up. You know, we people who were born on day of the ox, it's not our year, like I'm born in year of the pig, but that doesn't make me primarily a pig. Because I was born on day of the ox, I'm more of an ox than anything else. My month sign is tiger, my rising sign, Chinese rising sign is pig, and my year is pig. But the day that you're born, the day that we're born, that's the strongest one. And this is according to what it says from the website ChineseFortuneCalendar.com. It describes all that information about our day. Our day sign is the one that, you know, because it's the lunar sign of the Chinese zodiac, which many believe our lunar sign is the biggest one of all of them, the primary one of ours. It's not the sun or the solar or the year sign in the Chinese and so on. It's the day. Our moon sign in the Vedic astrology, they strongly believe is our strongest one. And the day sign in the Chinese astrology, that's the equivalent of it. You see what I mean? So our day animal, that the Chinese day sign or day that we're born on, that's the one. So in my case, it's the ox. So people born on day of the ox, you know, when they grow up in that, they may feel a lot that they've kind of been the odd one out, and not many people seem to really admire them well. And this is very true. It makes a lot of sense because in the wild, you know, the ox is kind of big and intimidating, you know, like, you know, they got the horns and they're big and awkward. So it makes a lot of sense if nobody wants to hang out with this big lazy beast, you know, that's gross and disgusting or whatever. Maybe that's how they view it. But then again, any of the other creatures could be like that. The dragon could be like that. The dragon is big and scary, of course. But, you know, the dragon, the Chinese always worshipped because they believed it to be the most powerful of all of them, you know. And I believe people born on the dragon, people born on day of the dragon, everything they touch turns to gold. I believe that. There's a lot of famous people born on day of the dragon. Man, there's the ones I could think of now are Leonardo DiCaprio, Seth Rogen. There's a long list. There is a long list in the Hollywood history, but you know, everything they touch turns to gold, I believe. But anyhow, in regards to the ox, so here's the explanation of why okay, so there's 12 animal signs in the Chinese. So 11 of the so the ox is the least liked of all of them. So all 11 of the other animals, they look at the ox, they frown, and they just turn their back and walk away. Nobody wants to associate with the ox. So why is this? So why do all the other animals of the Chinese zodiac dislike the ox? Okay, so on a side note, I wanted to mention Drake, our Toronto Canadian music artist and superstar Drake. He's born on day of the ox. He has a lot of people that don't like him, and this is fact. You know, there's a lot of people that dislike him, who shun him, and so on. So here's another example. He's really famous, I think, because of his other astrology. Like, he's a Leo rising, And I can't remember what his moon sign is in the Vedic astrology, but I do know in the Vedic astrology he's a Leo rising. And so Leos get famous very easily. But his Chinese astrology is the ox. So I think that may have to do with why he has a lot of people that dislike him. And so, and like the typical person who's born on day of the ox, like myself as well. So anyhow, uh, the ox is drawn to, okay, so the ox is a member of the second trine. The other two members of the second trine are the snake and the rooster. Okay, so I'll put it this way: there's 4 trines, 3 animals from each trine. That's 12 in all. Okay, the ox is a member of the second trine. Okay, the ox, the rooster, and the snake. The ox, snake, and rooster. So the ox is attracted. The ox and the rest of the second trine members, rooster and snake, they are attracted to those of the first trine. The first trine members are the rat, the dragon, and the monkey. Okay, so the ox is attracted to the dragon. Unfortunately, the dragon snares at the ox. And this is according to Chinese astrology. The dragon does not like the ox, period. And when the ox gets near the dragon snares and probably blows fire to keep the ox away. And or maybe flaps its wings to blow the ox away, whichever one. That's my assumption. So, and this is what it says in the story, in the legend of Chinese astrology. So the dragon snares at the ox. The monkey laughs at the ox. Okay, so the ox is attracted to the monkey, but the only reason that the monkey doesn't mind the ox being around is because the monkey likes to laugh at the ox and taunt him. The poor oxen, it doesn't even realize it's going on because it's done behind his back. And so the monkey uses the ox for its own amusement. And meanwhile, the ox is totally getting used by the monkey because the ox is the earth sign, the monkey is the metal sign. Earth nourishes metal. So this is why the monkey admires the ox for being in its presence, because the earth nourishes the metal. The monkey's the metal sign. But on the same token, the monkey is completely disrespectful to the ox, doesn't believe in the ox's ways, and at the same time just laughs at the ox and taunts him or her. And it's completely unfair to the ox. So bottom line, the monkey mistreats the ox. So here's the poor ox. He thinks that, he finally gets a break with the monkey. He doesn't realize that he's abused by the monkey. And so it's completely unfair. So once again, just when the ox thought he could get a break, he doesn't. Once again, and this has gone on since the beginning, and it's how it's going to be. It's how it's always going to be. So, however, the ox, all the animal signs have a best friend of theirs. So the best friend of the ox is the rat. Okay? So the rat was the first, the ox was the second in who showed up to the party first. So the ox absolutely admires the rat more than any of them. The rat, unfortunately, the rat doesn't really reciprocate. They do in a way, but the rat has their own agenda. They think they're above all the rest. The rat thinks they're the best one. That's why they were the first. They figured, okay, I was the first here. I've won the race. Therefore, I'm number one. I'm number one, baby. Yahoo. Okay. But so I actually find that all the people I've known who were born on Day of the Rat, so yeah, they've been very good friends of mine, and you could tell we get along perfectly. just find, but I find, that they're really focused on, they all have an agenda of theirs, and they don't seem to reciprocate. The rat doesn't seem to reciprocate much to the ox, and I think a lot of that is because the ox is the earth sign and the rat is the water sign, is a water sign. Sorry, a water sign. And so the earth controls water, so therefore earth is really detriment to water for the in reality. So I think this is intimidating for the rat. So the rat, you know what, the rat really loves the ox in return, but at the same time it gets a little overwhelming for the rat. And so once again, the ox doesn't have a break with the rat because, he's too overwhelming for them, and they don't mind the company or the presence of the ox. And you know what? They help one another out a lot, but I think at some point it gets overwhelming for the rat. The rat is the bystander for the ox for life, but I think that it really drains them because water in contact with earth is a disadvantage for the water still, and that's just how it is for the Chinese astrology. So anyhow, regarding the other animals, now the ox can't get a break from its own members in its own trine. So the snake is the fire sign. So the snake and rooster are also members of the second trine with the ox. So the snake is the fire sign, and fire nourishes earth. So the ox is the earth sign, the snake is the fire sign. Fire nourishes earth. Okay, so the snake is also one of the best friends of the ox. But there's a problem. Okay, the problem is that fire nourishes earth, and this is a disadvantage for the snake. It's beneficial for the ox, but it's a disadvantage for the snake because the snake is losing all its firepower to the ox. So the snake becomes overwhelmed because of this, because the ox is taking all its firepower. So the ox is draining for the snake because fire creates earth, fire nourishes earth. And so that's why it's an advantage for earth, which is the ox, but a disadvantage for fire, which is the snake. So, and at the end of the day too, and so eventually the snake starts to get overwhelmed and mad at the ox because of this. Also, the snake, you know what? The snake loves the ox in return, but at the end of the day, the snake is still a snake. When they're cornered, they bite. And when they bite, it's devastating. Boy, is it ever. The teeth of the snake is devastating. So none of the other animals, they never want to get bit by the snake. And this is legendary in Chinese astrology. Never corner a snake. Okay? And I see this and know that it makes a lot of sense. And when you see in real life, when a snake is cornered, they bite. It's that simple. And their teeth are devastating. And so this makes a lot of sense. So even though the snake and ox, they're members of the same trine, and they're friends, they get along, fire nourishes earth, but again, fire, it's draining for the snake because the ox, as long as the ox is there, it's overwhelming for the snake. Rihanna and Chris Brown. Okay, Rihanna and Chris Brown. So Chris Brown, okay, Rihanna was born on Day of the Snake. Chris Brown was born on Day of the Ox. So it's overwhelming for the snake when the ox is present. So I mean that could be. It even says too that when the ox in a sense could be even dangerous for the snake. which it mentions as well, because in real life how the ox is so big and menacing, and that, and the snake would be intimidated by that as well, unless it's an anaconda, and it could totally bite and strangle and eat the ox, if it's big enough, or gigantic enough, like prehistoric, so. But anyhow, in regards to the rooster, now the rooster is the metal sign. So metal, so the rooster is the metal sign, the ox is the earth sign. Earth nourishes metal. Okay, so earth nourishes metal, and this really takes its toll. So this is draining for the ox. So in this case, it's the other way around. It's beneficial for the rooster, but it's overwhelming for the ox. Okay, so the rooster and the ox are best friends. They're members of the same trine. They get along, they're helpful. But the more the ox is present, the more the rooster is present to the ox, or vice versa, it could get overwhelming for the ox, because the rooster is draining the ox of all its earth power. You see, because earth nourishes metal, but it's an imbalance. It's just like the snake, but the other way around. In this case, it's the ox that's getting drained by the rooster, because the rooster's the metal sign. So the rooster they think they're really superb, and they want to be the superstars. They're a lot like the rat in a sense. They want to have center spotlight, and they got to have this power and the fame power. And all the roosters I know, I'm not going to say any names here. But everybody I know born on day of the rooster, boy oh boy. And I could tell you, when I'm near them, I feel drained and overwhelmed. I do. I feel overwhelmed. And this is the case because earth nourishes metal, but it's a disadvantage for the ox, because the longer it's with the rooster, it becomes overwhelming and draining, because the rooster is taking all of its earth, and that's the only problem. But they are friends, though. They are friends, but the ox needs a break every once in a while from the rooster, let me tell you. And I don't want to tell any stories or examples, but I know some people born on day of the rooster, boy oh boy. I always think when I get a break from them, I'm always relieved, to recharge my batteries. And I don't think I'm wrong about this too. What it says in the Chinese astrology about the descriptions. So, boy, it seems so authentic. It's undeniable. I know that for sure. And you could easily tell from, real life examples. So anyhow, I'm going to do a continuation for this video in the part 2 of this. I didn't want to drag this on too long, of course. So in part 2, I'm gonna tell you why I believe the ox does not get along with members of the third trine and members of the fourth trine. Members of the fourth trine especially, because the fourth trine members are inimical to those of the second, because there's a disconnection in between, with the third trine being in between. And so that's why it's they say that they're inimical. Four trine members are inimical to those of the second. So in part 2, I'm going to get to the third trine members and the fourth trine members, why the ox is shunned by them as well. So thanks again for watching, guys. All the best. And again, today was July 31st, day of the Earth Snake, 2019. So all the best. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again in part 2 for 6 more animals we have regarding of why they don't get along, why the ox doesn't get along with any of the signs, and they're the odd one out. So if all the signs of the Chinese zodiac, if any of them have a party, the ox doesn't get an invitation. So the ox is always the odd one out. They're either the last one to get an invitation, or they don't get any invitation. So, and that's in the Chinese astrology. All the best. God bless. Thanks again for watching.